Nice. Well, would love to just hear from you about, your background, obviously leading up to your founding of Flyhomes, and really what prompted you to start the business in the first place.
I took a class project with my co-founder to save energy in every house. And we were trying to use machine learning techniques to predict the energy usage. But what we realized was that people don't upgrade energy in the houses because the capital investment doesn't get recouped in time, and housing market is opaque to the energy upgrade, so it won't quite pay you back. And I was like, we are bootstrapping, and I want to understand, what do people really care about when they buy a home? And he was going to buy a house. Can we just help you buy one? And he's like, do you know what you're doing? I'm like, absolutely no idea, but my co-founder is a lawyer, and I used to live in the basement of a realtor, Grandpa Tom, and he was awesome. So I said, between the two of them, we've got you covered. So basically, we thought about this on a weekend, and on Monday, we helped him buy a home. And that's kind of how we got into the home buying and home selling. Today we're building the world's best home buying experience. So that's kind of the journey that we've been on so far.
Obviously there's a lot of online home buying and selling startups. How do you define, what makes Flyhomes unique?
Home buying is a really complex process. And we start with the end consumer first and say, this is the largest purchase of their lives. How do we make it incredibly easy for them? We innovated and created the idea that every buyer should be a cash buyer. And I can sort of share the story at some point of how we came up with it. But basically, we have a whole fintech offering where we turn every buyer into a cash buyer. In our buy before you sell, we enable you to buy your next home before you sell your current home. And finally, most of the experience remains offline. So we're digitizing the whole journey and just making it a lot more efficient and pleasant for our customers. So I would say the combination of financial offerings, the service offerings, and our technology all combined together is kind of how we create the best experience in the world.
So how do you think about maintaining the hyper localization of understanding these markets, while at the same time having kind of the market agnostic platform to more industrially and more efficiently deliver this really branded high touch experience to consumers?
Every customer situation is a little bit different. So you can standardize 90% of the home buying process, maybe even 95%, but you still want to treat each customer as themselves. So that's where the human touch comes in. So we have a team of experts in each local neighborhood, who bring that local knowledge and expertise. But even for them, they're backed by teams of experts, which are bringing standardization in terms of looking at data from all different neighborhoods and saying, hey, how can we actually help you understand what's going on in this neighborhood versus the overall broader picture? So from my perspective, the global scale, the standardization of the global scale helps us with a lot of different things, like doing the cash offers and standard products like that.
And there's this concept that's probably intuitive to listeners now, but it'd be helpful, I think, to hear you explain it, which is buy before you sell.
The first time home buyers, I think about 40 to 50% of the market is buy before you sell, where people are looking to upsize in a current home. This process has been super hard.
It highlights the credit risk, right? It highlights, it would be like as if you're walking in to purchase something at a store and you're saying, assuming I get my next paycheck, I will be able to pay. But there's a contingency there that the merchant nor the home seller is equipped to underwrite. That shouldn't be their business.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's not what they should be evaluating. And inevitably biases come into the mix there. Which lender are you using? What's your background? How much down payment do you have? And our belief is that they should be able to put the house in the market and see. Efficient market is one where everybody has the same shot of buying the house at the same value, in the efficient market. So the way we go about this is we're deeply customer centric, aligned with every single way. So what we do is we come in and underwrite your current home and say, look, we will guarantee you a 95 to 90% price based on the variability of your neighborhood and guarantee a sale in 90 days. Now, with that amount, we know exactly what you qualify to go buy. So you can sit in the comfort of your current home. The day you find the home you love, we'll buy the next home for you. You just move once from this home to the next home. And then we'll list your home on the market and sell it for the highest price so that you get to keep the highest amount of proceeds for the one of the biggest assets of your life. That's how, most Americans, a big part of the wealth is in the home. And we believe that you should be able to get all the money for it. And just in case it doesn't sell, we'll buy the house from you at the guaranteed price. And so the customers know that we're fully aligned. If you went back and sold the house later for a higher price, we'll give you all the money back minus the cost of holding the house. So we have no incentive to take the house from you at a lower value. So we find that that's just how it's just a no-brainer for people. If you're looking to upsize, you should be doing it, with a company with Flyhomes.
So it's a really interesting dynamic to think that so much is put on the consumer that ought not to be, right? And that they're very poorly equipped to actually understand. And that in turn renders all this friction and injects all this friction into an otherwise fairly straightforward, fairly predictable process.
The home buying should be fun for people, and I mean, there's enough decisions to make in terms of where do you want to live, where do you want to take your family, but the process itself shouldn't be that hard. But to your point, consumers don't know any of this. They have no capacity to actually underwrite the risk. So they end up acting on fear. And fear is equal to friction. And as a company, we can act on the risk, we can actually understand the risk, and we can do several things to actually reduce the risk.
Absolutely. And I think the value, as you mentioned at the outset, of brand is so important, right? This is such a emotionally charged, fraught, complicated, experience the consumer has to engage with, but yet it's so connected to something so intimate and personal and ultimately positive, which is, the place you live. And there's this dissonance there, and it feels like what ultimately Flyhomes is attempting to do is to kind of reconcile those things, right? Make it so that the process of buying a home is not associated with fear. But if you have that trusted advisor, if you have that trusted brand, if you have the synthetic products to kind of like alleviate a lot of the contingencies that characterize any offer that anyone makes, and understanding the residential market, it just has such a I think it's psychologically, it kind of reduces that upfront friction to thinking about optimizing where you live.
Absolutely. I think to your point, like I was an immigrant to US and I could have bought my home, 5 or 6 years earlier, except that it was just so daunting. Like, where do you even begin? Who do you trust? Who do you go to? How do you understand the different parts of the pieces? So for us, we don't make the customer sign anything. You just come to us, we'll educate you. The process becomes a little less daunting. And most of the home buying, I think, like most things in life, the big decisions, you're spending so much time thinking about them. You don't know what the next step is going to be. And it's intimidating for all the right reasons. We haven't solved it completely, but we're on this journey of making it easier one step at a time. And I think it's come along quite a long way.